My life began to complicate at 20 when I married John. In the beginning, our days together were full of love and dreams. I vividly remember that time when we laughed together and made plans for the future. John was my rock, and I was his. But as the years passed, something started to change. Alcohol crept into our lives like an unwelcome visitor who refuses to leave. Once, during dinner, he came home later than usual, reeking of booze. Margaret, you worry too much, he said, with a crooked smile. I just had a beer or two with the guys after work. I wanted to believe him, but that wouldn't be the last time. Casual drinking outings became more frequent, and his personality began to shift. He became more aggressive, less patient. Our once rare arguments started happening almost daily. John, please, you need to stop this, I pleaded, tears in my eyes. Think about Emily and Michael. They need a present father, not a man who can barely stand. But my pleas fell on deaf ears. John's alcoholism turned our life into a true nightmare. There were days I feared coming home, unsure of what state I'd find him in. The fights grew more violent, and I found myself trapped in a cycle of pain and despair. One day, after a particularly heated argument, John left and didn't come back. He simply left us, abandoning me with 2 young children to raise alone. That was the moment my life truly changed. I couldn't afford to fall apart. Emily and Michael needed me, so I put on a brave face and decided to face the world. I got a job at a local factory and, to supplement our income, started working nights as a waitress. I worked 2 jobs to support my family, but fate had even greater challenges in store for me. I remember nights coming home exhausted, barely able to keep my eyes open. Emily and Michael would already be asleep, and I'd spend a few minutes by their beds, watching them sleep, feeling a mix of love and guilt. Love for them, for being my reason to live, and guilt for not being more present in their lives. Mama, will you stay home tomorrow? Emily would ask, eyes filled with hope. I wish I could, sweetheart, but I need to work. I promise we'll spend all day Sunday together, okay? I'd reply, trying to hide the pain inside. Years passed, and despite all the hardships, we managed. Emily and Michael grew up, becoming responsible and loving teenagers, despite all the challenges. One day, during a routine checkup, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. At 50 years old, I heard those words nobody wants to hear. The ground seemed to disappear beneath my feet, and for a moment, all I could think was, how am I going to tell this to my children? Mrs. Turner, we need to start treatment as soon as possible, the doctor said, with a serious expression. I know it's difficult, but I want you to know there is hope. My hands trembled as I held the brochure with information about the treatment. I left the doctor's office in a daze, trying to process the enormity of what was happening. When I got home, I called Emily and Michael for a talk. I have something important to tell you, I began, trying to keep my voice steady. I've been diagnosed with breast cancer, but I want you to know that I'll fight with all my strength to overcome this. Emily started crying, and Michael, always so strong, remained silent with tears in his eyes. I hugged them both, feeling the love and support emanating from them. The treatments were exhausting and painful. Chemotherapy sessions left me weak and nauseous, and there were days when I could barely get out of bed. But my faith in God kept me going. I prayed every night, asking for strength and courage to face that battle. After a long and difficult fight, I was declared cancer-free. The feeling of relief and gratitude I felt was indescribable. We had been through hell, but we came out the other side stronger and more united than ever. In 2024, the economy went into crisis, and I lost my job at the local factory. With no income and my savings dwindling, I faced the possibility of losing our home. To make matters worse, Emily was diagnosed with a rare autoimmune disease that required expensive treatments. I still remember the day I was laid off from the factory as if it were yesterday. The factory was one of the largest employers in Harmony Springs, and when the economic crisis hit, layoffs began en masse. I had been there for over 10 years, and suddenly, I found myself adrift. Margaret, we need to talk, and my supervisor, Mr. Thompson, said in a serious tone, calling me into his office. Sure, what's going on? I asked, already feeling a lump in my throat. You know the economic situation is tough. Unfortunately, the company needs to make cuts, and your name is on the list. I'm sorry, but we have to let you go, he explained, trying to sound sympathetic. But Mr. Thompson, I really need this job. I have 2 children to support. Isn't there any other option? I pleaded, my hands trembling. I'm truly sorry, Margaret. This decision is out of my hands, he replied, looking away. I left the factory with tears in my eyes, trying to figure out what I would say to Emily and Michael when I got home. How would I support my family without this income? I had no answers, just a growing fear of the future. When I arrived home, Emily was sitting on the couch, looking worried. She had missed school that day due to a medical appointment. Hi, Mom. How was work? She asked, but concern tinged her voice. Emily, we need to talk. I lost my job today, I said, trying to stay calm. Oh, Mom. I'm so sorry, she replied, getting up to hug me. I am too, honey. But we won't give up. We'll find a solution, I reassured her, even though inside I was terrified. The days that followed were a whirlwind of emotions. Without the factory income, my savings started to rapidly dwindle. I tried to cut costs wherever possible, but bills kept coming, and the possibility of losing our home became increasingly real. As if things couldn't get worse, Emily began feeling increasingly weak and tired. After several doctor visits and numerous tests, the diagnosis finally came. She had a rare autoimmune disease. The treatment was expensive and ongoing, something I simply couldn't afford with the resources I had. Margaret, Emily's condition is serious but treatable. However, the costs are high, and she'll need constant monitoring, Dr. Harris explained during one of our consultations. But Dr. Harris, I just lost my job. How am I supposed to pay for this? I asked, feeling despair creeping in. I understand your concern, Margaret. I'll see what I can do to help with the costs, but you'll need to find a way to secure these treatments, he replied, with a compassionate look. I left Dr. Harris's office with Emily by my side, trying not to cry in front of her. I needed to be strong, but I had no idea how I would overcome this new challenge. One night, as I tried to sleep, I heard a soft knock on my bedroom door. It was Emily. Mom, are you awake? She asked, her voice soft and hesitant. I am, sweetheart. What is it? I replied, sitting up in bed. I know things are tough right now, but I want you to know that I believe in you. I know you'll find a way to figure this out, as she said, her eyes shining with unwavering faith. Thank you, Emily. Your words mean so much to me, I replied, trying to hold back tears. The next morning, I decided I couldn't let myself be consumed by despair any longer. I needed to take action. I started looking for any job I could find, even temporary ones. I went to interviews, submitted resumes, but the economic crisis affected every sector, and opportunities were scarce. On weekends, I sold homemade cakes and sweets at the local market to try to earn some extra money. Sales were slow, but every penny helped. I remembered Emily's words and her faith in me, and that gave me strength to keep going. On a rainy afternoon, while preparing cake batter in the kitchen, Michael came in with a serious look on his face. Mom, I've been thinking. What if I got a job too? I can help with expenses, he suggested. Michael, you need to focus on your studies. I don't want you worrying about this, I replied, knowing any help would be welcome. But Mom, I want to help. I can't just sit by and watch you struggle alone, he insisted. Let's think about it, okay? For now, keep focusing on school. We need you prepared for the future, I said, trying to sound firm. Days passed, and despite all the hardships, we kept fighting. I knew I couldn't give up, not with Emily and Michael counting on me. I prayed every night, asking God for a sign, a light to guide us out of that darkness. Then I had an idea. I decided to sell the few valuable items I owned and open a small business selling homemade sweets. The idea came to me one night as I reviewed the bills and realized I needed a more stable source of income. While sales at the market were low, there was a constant demand for quality sweets in town. I talked to Emily and Michael about my decision. I'm going to sell some family jewelry and use the money to start a small business selling homemade sweets. I know it won't be easy, but it's our best chance, I explained, hopeful in my voice. I think it's a great idea, Mom. You make the best sweets in the world, Emily said, trying to cheer me up. I'll help however I can, Mom. We can do this together, added Michael with a smile. With my children's support, I started working in my small kitchen, turning it into a homemade sweets production. I made brigadeiros, cakes, pies, and cookies, all with love and care. At first, sales were still low, and I began to lose faith. God, please show me I'm on the right path, I prayed every night, trying to keep hope alive. Despite the challenges, I never stopped believing that we would find a way out. Life in Harmony Springs continued to be a daily battle, but Emily and Michael's faith and determination gave me the strength to move forward. Every challenge we faced made us stronger, and I knew that together, we could overcome any obstacle. During the darkest period of my life, my relationship with Michael began to deteriorate alarmingly. He was in adolescence, a challenging phase in itself, and started getting involved with a group of troubled youths. I always feared he might follow in his father John's footsteps, and that concern only grew as family responsibilities and pressures intensified. I remember one particular night vividly, when Michael came home very late, the smell of smoke clinging to his clothes. I was sitting in the living room, waiting for him, my heart tight with worry. Michael, where have you been? I asked, trying to stay calm. I was with my friends, Mom. Relax, he replied evasively, tossing his backpack on the floor and heading towards his room. Don't tell me to relax, young man. You know you have a curfew. And these friends of yours, I don't think they're a good influence on you, I insisted, my tone growing firmer. Oh, you always say that. They're my friends, okay? And I'm 17 already, I can make my own decisions, he retorted, his voice full of frustration. Make your own decisions? Michael, you can barely decide what you want for dinner. I'm trying to protect you, can't you see that? Tears started welling up in my eyes, but I fought to hold them back. You don't understand anything. Just because you had issues with Dad doesn't mean I'm going to be like him. He shouted, slamming his bedroom door shut. That night I cried alone in the living room, feeling like I was losing my son to a world I couldn't control. Meanwhile, my friend Linda was going through a painful divorce. She would come to my house a few times a week to vent and seek comfort. Margaret, I don't know what to do anymore, Linda said, her eyes red from crying. I feel like I'm falling apart. Linda, I know it's tough. But you're one of the strongest women I know. We'll get through this together, I said, holding her hand. Life has been cruel to us, but I believe there's still hope. Linda sighed, wiping away tears. How do you manage to be so strong, Margaret? With everything that's happening to you, you still find the strength to help me. I don't know, Linda. Maybe it's faith. Maybe it's my love for my children. I just know I can't give up, I replied, trying to smile. Meanwhile, the situation with Michael continued to worsen. He started skipping classes, and his grades plummeted. I received several calls from the school, informing me of his inappropriate behavior. I knew I had to do something before it was too late. One day, after yet another heated argument, I decided to try a different approach. I waited until he came home from school and called him over to talk. Michael, can we talk? I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. He rolled his eyes but sat down on the couch. What now? I know you're going through a tough time, and I know sometimes it feels like I'm nagging you. But I care about you, son. I just want what's best for you, I started, trying to contain my emotions. I know, Mom. But it's hard. I feel like I'm carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders, he admitted, his voice finally softening. I feel that too, Michael. But we need to be strong for each other. I need you, and you need me, I continued, reaching out to hold his hand. He hesitated for a moment, but then took my hand. I know, Mom. I'll try to do better. I promise. That small promise was a ray of hope in the darkness. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but it was a step in the right direction. During this time, my friendship with Linda continued to flourish. She found the strength to move forward, inspired by our shared journey. Many nights, after putting Emily to bed, we would sit on the porch, talking and laughing, finding solace in each other. Margaret, you really are an inspiration, Linda said one night as we gazed at the stars. Linda, I just do what I can. And having you by my side makes everything seem a little less scary, I replied sincerely. As days turned into weeks and then into months, I began to see a light at the end of the tunnel. Michael was distancing himself from bad influences, Emily was bravely coping with her illness, and my friendship with Linda was an anchor in the midst of chaos. When I found myself cornered by so many adversities, I felt I needed to do something drastic to change the course of my life and ensure the well-being of my children. That's when I made a decision to sell the few valuable possessions I still had and open a small business selling homemade sweets. My grandmother, a skilled confectioner, had taught me the art of making sweets when I was a child. Remembering her recipes sparked a glimmer of hope within me. Perhaps, just perhaps, this could be our salvation. The first few weeks were tough. Initial sales were low, and I began to doubt if I had made the right decision. Bills kept coming, and money seemed to vanish before my eyes. Emily, despite her condition, always tried to cheer me up. You'll see, Mom, as she would say with that brave smile. People will discover how wonderful your sweets are. I wanted to believe her. I kept myself busy in the kitchen, trying to perfect each recipe, from brownies to apple pies and chocolate-filled bonbons. At night, after putting Emily and Michael to bed, I knelt beside my bed and prayed. I asked God for a sign, anything that would show me I was on the right path. One night, as I finished a batch of truffles, Michael walked into the kitchen. He was quiet but seemed to want to say something. What's up, son? I asked, trying to hide my exhaustion. He hesitated before answering. I know things are tough, Mom. I wish I could help more. I was surprised and touched. Michael had been distancing himself from me, and seeing him there, reaching out, warmed my heart. You being here is already a great help, Michael. And just knowing that you care gives me strength to keep going. He nodded, looking slightly relieved. If you need help in the kitchen, I can try to learn. I would love that, I replied with a smile. Tomorrow after school, we'll start. In the following days, Michael started helping me with making sweets. It was our time together, a way for us to reconnect. Meanwhile, I continued praying for a miracle. That's when Linda, my longtime friend, showed up at my door with news. Margaret, have you heard about the cooking contest happening in town? She asked, looking excited. I hadn't heard about it. A cooking contest? Yes, and the cash prize is quite significant. Maybe this could help you with the bills and Emily's treatment. The idea sounded good, but I was so tired and discouraged that I couldn't help but feel skeptical. I don't know, Linda. The competition must be fierce. What if I don't win? What will I do next? Linda held my hands and looked into my eyes. Margaret, you're one of the best confectioners I've ever known. You have to try. At least try. I took a deep breath and decided she was right. I had nothing to lose. With Linda's encouragement and Michael's support, I entered the contest. The days leading up to the contest were a mix of anxiety and hope. Emily, despite her frail health, insisted on being present at every step, tasting the sweets and giving her opinions. Mom, this one is perfect, as she would say, holding up a chocolate truffle. I'm sure you'll win. On the day of the contest, I woke up with a strange feeling in my chest. Emily was feeling worse, and I had to take her to the hospital. While we waited for treatment, she held my hand and said, You need to go, Mom. Go to the contest. I can't leave you here, Emily, I replied, worried. I'll be fine. The doctors will take care of me. you need to do this for all of us." Her eyes sparkled with determination. With a lump in my throat, I agreed. I left Emily in the care of the doctors and went to the contest with a heavy heart. At the event, there was a palpable energy in the air. Other competitors were as nervous as I was. When it was my turn, I remembered Emily's words and silently prayed. As I prepared my sweets, I thought of every difficult moment I had faced, from John's alcoholism to battling cancer and economic crises. Each challenge seemed to shape me, preparing me for that moment. My grandmother's words echoed in my mind, "Put your heart into every sweet you make." After exhausting hours, I finally finished and presented my sweets to the judges. The wait for the result was agonizing. I looked up at the sky and prayed to God that, if it was His will, He would grant me that victory. When they announced my name as the winner, I was stunned for a moment. The applause around me seemed distant. Tears streamed down my face as I walked up to the stage to receive the prize. One of the judges, an elderly lady with kind eyes, held my hand and said, "Your sweets have soul. Each bite tells a story of struggle and hope. Congratulations, my dear." With the prize money, I was able to pay for Emily's treatments and stabilize my small business. That victory was much more than financial relief. It was a sign that I was on the right path, that my faith and perseverance were paying off. Upon returning to the hospital, the first thing I did was hug Emily. We did it, sweetheart. We did it." She smiled weakly but sincerely and murmured, I knew it, Mom. I always knew." That was the beginning of a new phase in our lives. My business began to thrive, and orders started pouring in from all over. Inspired by my success, Michael distanced himself from bad influences and began helping me in the kitchen with more enthusiasm. "I'm proud of you, Mom," he said one day, as we baked a batch of brownies. "I'm proud of you too, Michael," I replied, feeling deep gratitude for everything we had overcome together. During the months following the cooking contest, I saw my small homemade sweets business flourish in ways I never imagined. Orders started pouring in from all corners of Harmony Springs and even neighboring towns. More and more people wanted to taste my sweets, and I finally felt like I was on the right path. Emily, my daughter, began to show significant improvement. The expensive treatments were now being covered by the contest money and the growing profits from my business. Seeing her smile return was the greatest reward I could have. Michael, my son, returned to being the loving and dedicated young man he had always been. He started helping me in the kitchen, learning the art of making sweets and distancing himself from the bad influences that once surrounded him. Our conversations were filled with laughter and sharing of past memories and dreams for the future. Michael, can you pass me that bowl of flour?" I asked as we prepared a batch of cupcakes. Sure, Mom. By the way, I was thinking of a new recipe. How about trying lemon cupcakes with raspberry filling?" As he suggested, his eyes shining. That's a great idea. Let's try it tomorrow," I replied, feeling a wave of pride and joy. Linda, my dear friend, also found the strength to restart her life. Inspired by my story of overcoming adversity, she decided to return to studying and start her own party decoration business. We supported each other, sharing challenges and victories. Our bond grew even stronger. Margaret, can you believe I got my first client for a wedding party?" Linda exclaimed excitedly as we had coffee. I knew you would, Linda. You have an incredible talent for decoration. I'm so happy for you," I replied sincerely. Life still had its ups and downs, like any other, but now I knew I could overcome anything with faith and determination. The challenges I faced in the past made me stronger and more resilient. Each challenge overcome gave me more confidence to keep going. One day, while in the kitchen preparing a new batch of cookies, I received an unexpected letter. It was from a lawyer. My heart raced as I read the first few lines. John, my ex-husband, had passed away. He left a significant inheritance for us. Tears began to stream down my face as I processed the news. Emily, Michael, come here. We need to talk. I called my children, trying to control my emotions. What happened, Mom? Emily asked, concerned. I received a letter from the lawyer. Your father passed away. He left an inheritance for us, I explained, showing them the letter.
My God.
I don't know what to say, Michael said, shocked. I'm sorry, Mom. I know things between you two were difficult, Emily said, holding my hand. Yes, they were. But he deeply regretted his actions. He wanted to ensure we never struggled financially again, I replied, trying to find a balance between sadness for the loss and gratitude for the inheritance. This unexpected turn not only resolved our financial problems but also brought emotional closure for me and my children. We could finally put an end to the pain and suffering caused by the past. With this new stability, I expanded my homemade sweets business. I opened a small shop on Main Street in Harmony Springs, where I started employing other women who, like me, were struggling to overcome their own challenges. Margaret, you've truly changed my life. I never thought I could have a second chance, Sarah, one of the women I hired, said with tears in her eyes. Sarah, you deserve this chance as much as I do. We're in this journey together, I replied, embracing her. The shop became a community gathering place where people came not only to buy sweets but also to share stories and find support. I felt a deep gratitude for being able to help other women find the strength and courage to start over. Margaret, your sweets are the best in town. I can't imagine Harmony Springs without your shop, Mr. Thompson, one of our most loyal customers, said. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. It's a pleasure to serve this wonderful community, I replied with a smile. Today, I continue to work with joy and faith. My children, each in their own way, are forging their own paths. I thank God for all the lessons and opportunities. I also thank you for following along with a bit of my story. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like, and comment. Your comments are crucial for the channel's team.